Welcome everybody to Chik-Wauk. We've got a great presentation today, which is provided free of charge to everybody through Visit Cook County and the Gunfoot Trail Association and generous donations by our community. So thank you for all showing up today. Coming up, we've got a big weekend, August 9th, 10th, and 11th is our dark sky weekend. So please feel free to come to that. There's events happening Friday and Saturday night on the Gunfoot Trail. And then Sunday, August 11th, a little plug for my daughter, Anna Hennessy, will be talking about the Iditarod and her experience doing that race on Sunday. It's an add-on Sunday, August 11th. I get to introduce our introducers, actually. So, Joe Fredericks and M. Baxley know our speaker today. I'm going to put a plug in for this great book, The Last Entry. Joe is actually wrote this book and is going to be speaking here in September. Date, do you have in your head?
14th. September
14th. About this book, but we have it for sale now. And our speaker today is in this book. There's about a whole chapter on him. So I'll let you guys take over here. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. So I think it's long enough ago now that I can't recall if it was 6 or 7 years ago that I was working at an outfitter on the shore on Highway 61, peak summertime season. This guy walks in and is, looks like a lot of other Boundary Waters travelers, a little furry, a little dirty. Looks like he's well-traveled, and he's looking for a few odds and ends for his Boundary Waters trip. So I ask him questions, try to help figure out what he's looking for, and I come to learn that this guy named Mark spends the entire spring, summer, fall in the Boundary Waters, and I am enamored and in awe at this human. So ask him if he'll come talk to me for an interview for this relatively new podcast that Joe and I had started. And Mark obliges, though outside of his comfort zone, to sit in front of a microphone, did this beautiful interview with me, and then as soon as I stop recording, Mark says, "Oh, I should probably tell you that everything we've been talking about, I do it barefoot." and then my head really exploded. Really kind of capped off this amazing traveler who has learned and acquired so much knowledge about the place. But that was just the start.
Right, so we have this story about Mark Zimmer, the Barefoot Paddler, and I started writing the book, Last Entry Point, about people who've been injured or died in the Boundary Waters. And to contrast that, I wanted somebody who is the living embodiment of how to do this in a way that you come home and you travel extensively. You don't get hurt, you don't die. Well, who better than someone who spends 3 seasons or about a decade doing that? So I contacted Mark. We were able to be in communication with him through a satellite phone, I think at that time, or some sort of a spot device type thing. And we arranged it to go meet on Brule Lake and have a conversation about that, sort of an expanded conversation about what we had shared on the podcast. So we went out together and brought a steak, and Mark ate that steak with his hands, and see the blood, medium rare. So that was a memorable experience, and learned about some of the techniques. And it was then that I really learned that Mark is an encyclopedia of the Boundary Waters, of campsites, portages. If you ask it, he'll know it. It's amazing. It blew us away, the knowledge, direct, feet on the ground knowledge of what he is experiencing out there every year, from Ely side here towards Sag, over toward the Arrowhead Trail. It's just unbelievable the amount of knowledge that he has. So I'm here excited to learn how this year's been going for him. I haven't been able to talk to Mark in a while, so it's exciting to be here, and that's my story.
The last thing I want to include as part of this lengthy introduction is that Mark has a lot of knowledge, like Joe said, and finally went so far as to start this website as an attempt to share that wealth of knowledge with the world. And it's an amazing attempt, a powerful attempt to start giving back to the community that we all are part of. So I think it's time to hear all about it.
Mark Zimmer.
Thanks, guys. So I'm the Barefoot Paddler. They gave me the nickname. I guess I just do everything barefoot because I'm a soloist, and it's the most comfortable for me to be able to use my toe muscles while I'm going around. And when things are wet, I don't slip as often, like rarely, but it does happen, but it could be worse. So anyways, who am I? I spent about the last decade exploring the boundary waters solo. It's not that I don't have friends. It's just I don't have any that are willing to spend their summers in the woods with me. So either way, it didn't stop me from exploring the wilderness the way that I want to. So now it's been over a decade. So about 150 days a year. So I guess I spent over 4 years of my life total in the last probably 10 years living alone in the boundary waters. So today I'll share my journey here. I don't really have any goals, I guess. I never really did when I started this. And now I guess I'm just trying to coexist with other animals, plants, trees, insects, and I guess to learn about all of it, because it's all a part of it. I guess I don't have any children, so like everything out there has to be family to me, I guess. So there it is. So never day in my life did I expect to be doing this. Like when I was a kid, I guess. I was an outdoorsy person, but like never thought I'd be living alone in the woods. Who does, right? So here I am. So I'll do the best I can to try to tell you guys what I've learned. So I completed every maintained portage in the boundary waters. As a lot of you guys know, they don't maintain many of the areas that they used to. I've done a lot of them trails as well. I studied the old maps, which I talk about in a little while, but so I do many of the PMA areas, which are primitive management areas. So then, unlike my maps, I have the blue lines are the ones that aren't maintained anymore, but technically they're still there. So I kind of have fun exploring them, different areas, just to see what still exists and what's not, see how quick nature takes things back, because they stopped maintaining a lot of the stuff, I think after it turned into wilderness, I think in the mid-60s. So throughout the year, the difficulty of each portage varies. In the spring they can be a lot harder with fast water and everything like that. Muddy, really muddy, and then that water is really cold in the spring, so when you get through a lot of that mud, sometimes it gets really... In the spring, I still do things barefoot just because that's the more comfortable, so that water really gets cold sometimes, and things take a little longer, but you gotta do safety first. It's another thing about being barefoot, just when things are wet along the edges here, you slip a lot, and I can kind of fit into rocks and wedge myself in there a little bit, which is a big advantage. I like to take advantage of. So after doing all the portages, which I think I have 1,089 or something like that tracked, so there's quite a few of them out there. And then I have like all the beaver dams and everything like that too. So like if when you go through it, of course in the spring you're not going to be able to have to do the beaver dams. You'll be able to probably just float right over them. But come fall, you're most definitely going over them. The most difficult portage for me was it's over on the Ely side in the little part of the boundary waters. It's from Big Moose Lake to Duck Lake. There's a bog on the eastern side that's probably it's maybe only 80 rods, so it's not that far, but it's that suctiony muck that really sucks up, And then once you get through that, then you got about another mile and a little over a mile to portage, and it's just I was pretty tired at that point. I was single. And usually, if I do a trip for more than like 10 to 14 days, my food bag gets too heavy, so then I have to start double portaging. But if I do under a 2-week trip, I can fit all my food bag and everything into one backpack. So at this point, I was doing less than a 2-week trip, so everything was just heavy. So I mean, I could have just been that I was whining at that point. I'm by myself all the time, so whining doesn't go very far. So here's a couple more portages. This is the new stair portage or whatever that they did over from Rose Lake. Down to from Duncan to Rose. I don't know if anybody's been there yet, but it really was. They did an amazing job on that. And this is just the regular one that I just figured I'd show. I used to do everything with a kayak. The first like 8 years or something like that. I had a 12-foot kayak that I brought around and traveled everything with. A little bit harder to carry. I didn't ever make a yoke for it or anything like that. I just put a bandana between my hat and my head and I just carried it around. By the end of the summer, I was pretty much unstrangleable. I could get mouthy at that point. And then eventually I ended up getting a canoe, which, you know, the canoe is great because it's lighter, and I know like most people are really fond of the canoes up there, but I tell you, I find a lot of advantages with the kayak at times. You know, going down little creeks, Larch Creek, for example, you know, is narrow. So like you've only got maybe 8 feet to play with, you know, on both sides of you. And when you got a solo canoe and you got 6 feet in front of you, it's hard to go into that sweet gale sometimes, and you got to step into some deep stuff. So it's a lot nicer with the kayak to be able to ram up on it and away you go, you know. So there's kind of some advantages to it, but the canoe is 30 pounds, so I mean, like, that's kind of nice too. And going across lakes on a calm day, the canoe is so pleasant to paddle, and the kayak was just never as enjoyable. So, but fishing and everything like that, I mean, I really don't find an advantage out of either one. They're both, you get used to what you have, you know, that's really what it is. So, why barefoot? Well, I guess the reason that I started kind of barefooting was my grandpa was a crazy barefooter who even went to like our local bazaars and festivals and stuff barefoot. So he was a different breed too. So I guess, and I never really planned on like full-time barefooting out here or anything like that. But then after, I guess I did some barefooting, but not a lot. And then after he passed, I come back from his funeral, and then I dedicated a day to him. And I was on Alpine Lake, and I went from Alpine to Seagull up to Paulson, and then back around through Peter to Ogish, and then back to Alpine all as a day trip. So it was, you know, that's a good, I don't know, 30 miles, maybe whatever plus. And I did it all barefoot that day, just kind of to dedicate to him. And then I just decided, I was like, well, I can do it. And I just kept doing it.
Wow.
So that's kind of the story behind it. So I stay there usually about the end of April, sometimes mid-April, depending on the season is when I go in, pretty much just right after ice off. So the effects of water levels can really take a big difference on my trips and everything like that. Generally speaking, I like to stay, I park in Ely area because then I can take a month and I can go towards Loch Lacroix in that area and then come back and then resupply and then come this way and then do a month this way and then go back to my vehicle and then resupply. So it's kind of a nice center point. So usually I guess I start the year and I kind of head down the Basswood River because there is a high amount of water flow there, which just makes it fun and interesting to learn about all that. So this is Curtain Falls at 3 different stages. All 3 pictures are of the same waterfall, just at different times of the year, which really is amazing that, you know, the differences that it can be. But it's, I don't know, it's a good example. It's, other falls, you know, like you can tell the differences, but this one here just, it really shows it the best, I guess. But then they're all, you know, 2021 was the bottom. That was, well, a couple years ago, we had a really, really bad drought. And then this, okay. So the top left picture, after we got all that rain this year, that's pretty much what it was equivalent to after we got them 5 or 6 inches and everything flooded or whatever. Because I went through there afterwards, I guess I just didn't update the picture, but it was pretty much the same as that. So Crooked Lake has an overflow outlet, which kind of prevents curtain falls from getting any more excessive than this in that spot, and then it starts overflowing the overflow outlet, and then that starts to flood. So, and I went over there, and everything was. There's a ton of wild rice over there too. It'll be interesting to see what the wild rice is like this year with the lake flooding. And same with cranberries. I don't know if the cranberries are going to be good this year, if they're going to not be good. So we'll find out. This is one of the flooded trails that I let you know, like had an advantage to spring or flooding, you know, as you get to paddle a little bit further in. So this was back when I had my kayak, so you can see the front of the kayak there. But yeah, so that trail ended up going quite a ways back there, and I mean, most of the time it's not more than waist deep anyways, but usually at this time of the year when it's flooded like that, the water's still really cold. So you just try to stay out of it as much as you can. So spring honestly, to do the barefoot thing in spring isn't as hard as you'd think, because you still have the sun produces enough heat compared to like coming up here in the fall. Once fall comes, then everything gets, you know, a lot harder because I don't have the sunlight that I have in the spring. It just doesn't produce the heat, so that it makes it a little tougher. And then, you know, you're acclimated, of course, you know, to winter. So when it's 30 degrees in the summer, it's nice, or in the spring it's nice, right? But at 30 in the fall feels a little different. So in order to kind of what got me going on marking all the portages and everything, the reason why I kind of did it is I got into studying old maps and the history of the area and everything like that. I did some stuff for the Historical Society in the town that I kind of grew up in that area and stuff, and then I don't know, I guess history is just kind of interesting. So I studied a lot of the old maps to figure out where the old trails were and everything. As it turns out, there used to be trails pretty much just about every lake in the boundary waters, you know, within reason, you know. I've done my best to try to find them. A lot of ways that I try to find them are like invasive species and things like that. You know, you can find a dandelion or, you know, something, even some thistle, you know, usually doesn't grow in certain areas and stuff like that. So if you find some invasives, it's always a dead giveaway, usually at least, that there was a trail, you know, especially when you find a bunch. So then I kind of try to follow them and, you know, see where it goes. Usually, even the old trails, you know, where they still exist, there's still, you know, when you go on the trails, a lot of berries typically grow there, so they do have a tendency to stay there a little bit longer. So it's a great place to go and pick berries. This is an old map that I have. This is, I don't know, from like 1945, probably in that range. And this is from the Chik-Wauk Lodge, so it's kind of interesting. I could throw it on there.
What's the price of that map on there, Mark?
So this one, originally they were 15 cents. This map, I think, was produced probably between like 38 and 40 is when most of these border lake region maps were produced. And they were originally 15 cents. And then they must have went through and reprinted. And then like this particular one has the 1 and then the 2 over the top, you can see. So they ran this one through to make it a little bit more expensive. But still, they've always been doing that. But yeah, so this was but the original ones were 15 cents, because I have some of them too that were 15. So it's kind of neat. And then in the 60s, once they had the maps, then they went up to 35 cents. The Fisher maps did for the most part, sometime in the mid 60s. So yeah, so then this is kind of about studying. Usually I do more of my studying the old trails and stuff in the spring and fall. It's a lot easier without all the leaves and everything. fall, I don't necessarily do as much because when the leaves start to fall, it's just slippery, and it's just more dangerous to be out there doing that type of stuff by yourself, you know. So it's for the sake of my mom that I try not to do anything too risky. So here in the watercraft building, there's a 1920 Forest Service map, which shows some of the old things. It has some old lake names. It's a really great place just to kind of compare like a new map that you see to something that's from over 100 years ago. It's on display over there. It's really, really cool to check out. But what I'm showing here is this thing here. So a lot of the old trails, like these are all older maps, and like there's not a trail that goes. This is from Knife Lake over to Holt to the top of Ogish, and there used to be, well, there still is a trail going through there, and I don't have these two marked, but it still goes through there. This one shows it going through, and this one doesn't show it at all. So that's what kind of got me interested in studying to see, well, how many of these trails, you know, still exist. So, and the same with down in this area from V Lake up through Amini to Horsefish, over to the bottom of Michigan there. That area, and you can still get through that area really good. There's a spot between here and Image Lake. Where is it? Between here and here, yeah, because that's Horsefish. So between here and Image, that has white palm lilies, but they have a really nice pink tint to them, and it's one of the places, only places that I find the white lilies to have a nice pink color to them. So it's a kind of a special spot here, you know. So anyway, that's one place that, you know, you just, and nobody goes there anymore because it's one of the, you know, the old trails. Outward Bound, one of the groups that does adventures for kids and stuff like that. They take the kids into the deep areas. So they kind of help maintain some of them trails to keep them open. Otherwise, it's just, you know, basically animals. Because moose trails, you know, I mean, they are easy to follow. You know, I mean, they're big. So here's some of my favorite trails. Of course, there's the monument ones, which we have over in this area. I think most of them are over here, actually, I guess. But so here's some of the ones that I like. Is Hansen to Knife, which is over in this area west of Stavanger. Hansen to Knife, it's got a nice waterfall. There's really nice old cedar trees along the trail, which is kind of just, cedars are my favorite tree probably. For a couple of reasons, I guess I kind of got that later. But Beaver to Adams is a really cool trail. This one's got some old rocks, and the trail comes in right here. So when you're paddling up to it, you'd never really think that you're just going to paddle into a cliff to find the trail. But on this one, you do. So that's, you know, makes it fun. Goes to Duncan. That's just another picture of the new trail, and then the waterfalls on there. I like that area. I like going through there, but there's a lot of people in this area. So I don't spend a lot of time north of the Gunflint just because of there's motor noise and there's a lot of people. Typically, if you're gonna find me in the woods, if you play like a Find Mark game or something like that, you know, it would be. I'm usually pretty deep into areas where people aren't, and I don't hang out at entry points. I don't hang out around motors. Like all the motor lakes are just really pretty much pass-through lakes for me. As great as some of them are, you know, like Basswood is honestly, it's a great fishing lake. You know, it's nice, but and then like another one is like Loch Lacroix. You can't have motors on the United States side, but you can have full like houseboats on the Canadian side. So I don't spend a lot of time there either because then you still hear all the motor noise, which it just doesn't make it as pleasant to me, which is why I hang out in the boundary waters as opposed to the Superior National Forest, which again can be more secluded. You know, the forest can be more secluded than the boundary waters in a lot of places, but not as quiet. You know, it's nice to have the silence that you get out there. This is Devil's Cascade. This is from all the way on the eastern end, or the western end. coming up from Lower Pontus Lake to Loon Lake. There's a cascade down there that's just got a nice waterfalls, but at the same time it's got a nice view. On the other side, you don't get the views that you get here. You get gorgeous views over on the Gunflint. This terrain is rugged and it sucks, but the views are tremendous. Iron Crooked, the Curtain Falls, I mean, like the portage itself is pretty nice. You can actually, as long as you don't go down these, like you can go down a little bit further and then you can run the rapids the rest of the way. They're not heavy or anything like that, and it's just good fishing. This was kind of nice. It had the rainbow, which usually it doesn't produce the rainbow. It was just at the right water level at the time. So, and it was excellent fishing around that area. Finger to Pocket is another one that's over by Loch LaCroix. It's just another one of them trails that follows a creek along the way, and you kind of have running water to listen to, which is it's just enjoyable. You know, it makes it easy to follow the trail. You know, like you imagine like back in the day when people were making the trails and stuff like that, you weren't just, you know, like if you're cutting trails through the woods, it's a different thing, but like following the creek is just, it's pleasant. You know there's going to be another lake above you. You know, sometimes when you're going through the woods, you're just following a trail and you don't really get to enjoy anything else along the way, unless, you know, it's this time of the year and you get berries. You know? So that's one advantage of always being out there for a long time and doing double portaging is when I go back, it's berry picking time, you know. So it's on Little Sagagaw Lake. There's a little spot at the end of the portage on the western side of the trail, and like so the portage is back here, and then you can paddle behind this rock, and it's maybe like 30 feet deep, and maybe this is like 8 feet wide or something. But it's kind of unique, and it's of itself. I don't know a lot of places that have this. And like you're fully sheltered over the top of you at the time, so it would be a great storm shelter, I guess, if you're in the area. Which, I mean, honestly, you hear a storm coming in the Boundary Waters, you can't paddle a mile away to go to a spot like this, anyways. But like, you know, in a perfect world, this would be an amazing spot. But it's got a nice old growth moss on the left side, and then this year when we had all that rain, and now it's just up high. You know, so it washed a lot of that out, but that rain was hard on everything out there. It was really neat to see some of what it all pushed and how much force that water has. It was really incredible. So that's kind of an advantage to being outside all the time. Plus I get this nice tan. Another really cool spot that's kind of over in this area, I try to focus more on somewhat on the Gunflint side because this is kind of where this is a little bit. So from Ogish to Mueller Lake, there's a waterfall that a lot of people go to along the Keck Trail. It's called Ogmok Falls. This is down the same water line, so that Ogmok Falls would be like down Mueller and then this way. So this is the same water line, so there's a decent amount of current there. So this is Ogish up here, and then you kind of do a little bushwhacking through this little pond, and there's a little hidden waterfalls back here. And this is the waterfall. It's not marked on any maps or anything like that. And if you look at this on a map, it just looks like a really thin line, right? So you're like, well, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I pay a lot of attention to the topography and lake elevations and everything. So you kind of know that there's like 40 feet or something like that in that amount of room, right? So you just, you know, there has to be something in there. It's some spot, right? So that's what I found. So that was kind of cool. So I get to do a lot of exploring like that over the years because I'm by myself and you know, you gotta find things to do. So prepping, I pre-plan all my trips for, you know, like here this is like 1 month's food, 1 month's food, 1 month's food. So I got like 6 months worth of food there, and then I usually go to my vehicle once every, you know, 3 to 4 weeks, something in there, depending on the season. When it's early in the season, I don't get as much food off the land, so then I have to do a little bit more of the food bag. At this point in the year, you know, you really don't have to go into the food bag if I don't want to, but it's nice to get, you know, a little bit of extra flavor or granola bar or something like that. It's just convenient, you know. So yeah, that's how I pack all my food. I put it all in Mylar bags, which is just aluminum foil bags, because, you know, it just sucks to deal with bears, you know. I mean, you know, so I mean, I would much rather not see them. I take more pride in not seeing them all summer. Like, if I could spend a whole summer and not have a bear in my camp, I think I'd be doing pretty good, right? Because, you know, I spend a lot of time out there. So this is one of the ways I do to prevent it. And then I'm really not as worried about bears as I am like mice and red squirrels and chipmunks. Because chipmunks are really a pain in the butt. But, you know, I mean, they're fun to watch at the same time. And like red squirrels, as much as they suck, like, and you know, because they chatter at you all the time, right? But that chattering eventually turns into a benefit for me, because sometimes if the red squirrel isn't chattering at me, it's chattering at something else, right? So I can take what the animals are doing and kind of learn from them, and like be aware that something else is probably around me because this is not chattering at me. So I kind of have animals or pets up there that they just don't know it. You know? Yeah, so then these are, like I said, that's about my food bags. I think the longest that I've done out of one food bag is like 50 some days. And I don't really I don't set length goals. I don't set like time goals or anything like that anymore. It's just kind of what happens, happens. I think the longest that I ever spent in the boundary waters without leaving was a little over 4 months. And then I just had people come in and resupply me at the time. Now it's easier for me to resupply myself, and it's just more convenient for everybody. And I guess I got on here a little time I had a bear in my food bag. It's one of my interactions, I guess. I think I actually have only, I think there only has been one time that the bear got my bag. It got it out of the tree or whatever, but I was able to get it back, which I'm proud of, because I mean, like, you know. But I yelled at it, you know, and then I didn't know, like, it really didn't react to it, and then, you know, because we're close to Canada, so I was like, maybe it's a French-speaking bear, you know, so I started cursing at it in French. So anyways, yeah, my bag was ruined, but I got it back, so I still consider that a win. So here's more about planning my trips. Not much to say here, I really don't. Find an open permit, and then wherever I go in, I go in. I try to find a spot where my vehicle's not going to get crushed by a vehicle. I try to find a bigger parking lot if I can. When I do plan, like I say, I plan it takes out too much of the adventure. When I do plan things, it never really works out for me anyways. So like I used to plan stuff, and then I was like, well, I'm gonna do this anyways, and I just whatever. I just get up and I do what I want. So I live like a dog, you know, but I'm more like a cat because I'm by myself all the time. I guess. So I'm just a confused animal out there. And then here's another thing about planning. You know, you can plan as much as you want for a trip into the boundary waters, or really anywhere for that matter, but you never really know what's going to happen. So, you know, being able to react to what happens also is, you know, a huge part of it. And I, you know, I've had hard times learning that over the years and stuff like that. The second year that I came out of the woods, I was really malnourished. I mean, I could do anything I wanted to do because I had been out in the woods for a really long time, but I just wasn't as like nourished, like I didn't have all the nutrients I should have had. I didn't know how to live in the woods like I do now. And I'm still not, I would never consider myself an expert. I still have a ton to learn about everything, you know. I mean, and I'll probably never learn it all in my life, you know. So, but it's a work in progress. You know, you just do what you can. So anyways, sometimes I'll just wake up in the morning, drop a leaf, and just go with the wind, you know, so kind of an advantage. And if you don't plan, anything can happen, so you just got to make the best out of what does, you know. If you plan something and then it rains and then you change your plans because it rains, well then your whole trip is dependent on that. And if you just suck it up and you do what you're going to do even though it's raining, you're still having a good time, and you're still, it'll pay for itself in the end. You know, even though sometimes while you're going through the process of it, it sucks, but usually it pays off. Like sometimes, a lot of the times when I go pick berries, I climb on top of the cliffs and stuff like that, you know, or go on top of hills because that's where a lot of the blueberries and raspberries, you know, grow on the edges and stuff like that. So yeah, like, you know, it can kind of suck to get to them, but you're getting berries, so like the benefits of it is definitely worth it, you know. Time. I was curious. Okay. Camping techniques. So some of the things that I do, I know that usually you can't like pick campsites, you know, but if you can, you know, when you're on a lake. Well, me personally, just because I'm by myself, I prefer a campsite that's on a lake that only has one campsite because, well, to be completely honest with you, I love, as much as I love like groups of 9 and stuff like that, when you're by yourself, it's hard to listen to a group of people having a good time. You know, which is another reason that I don't do campfires usually for entertainment value, because I guess I consider campfires as kind of like a social activity, and it's just one of the things that I only use for a purpose. You know, so the only purpose of fires for me is heat or cooking. Otherwise, it's work. You know, it's you know, I'm cutting wood, I'm, you know, doing it, and it's all just a lot of wasted energy that I could be doing other things with. So I don't spend a lot of time at campsites, I guess, to begin with. So when I do, you know, like it's occasionally I'll grab the nice campsite, you know, because, you know, it's, everybody likes the nice campsite. But usually I leave them alone and I let other people do the nice campsites because everybody likes the nice campsites. So everybody paddles past, right? So I just tuck myself away in bays, you know, or like I say, lakes that don't have a ton of campsites. Another thing about that is the lakes that have a lot of campsites, they're huge. I don't need to catch a fish that's, you know, 40 or, you know, inches long. It's not going to do anything for me other than pride, which of course, you know, we all think it's cool to catch that. I do too, but it's more about the food value of it for me. So I don't even really catch, I really don't even like fish a lot for numbers. It's rare that I'll catch more than one fish if it's an eater to continue fishing, because I just find other things to do, I guess. And I still love to fish, which I guess, you know, I do every day, so I still take advantage of it. So yeah, so everything I need now is available. Okay, so I say that. Loud groups, yeah, they're loud. And I don't see nearly as many animals when I'm by myself. When I'm by myself, I see a lot of stuff, but then at the same time, animals react to me differently because I'm a soloist, and they know when a person's by themselves, and you know, they're not stupid, you know. So I just sometimes you run into them and they react differently. A lot of the times when I see a moose, they don't really react at all to me, you know. In fact, I've only had a few of them ever turn around and run away. Usually it's me doing the turning around and running away, you know. But really only one time I was on the Eagle Mountain Trail, and there were some people coming down that spooked a big bull. So I heard trotting, but I really just thought it was a group of people running down, and then it ended up being face to face. That was a little, I felt kind of like a cartoon where their heart beats out of their chest. Yeah, but that one ended up just going into the woods, not me. So it's usually one of the two of us. But it was a beautiful, beautiful animal. When I'm looking for campsites, I guess I try to avoid large pine trees and aspen because they'll snap off. I guess, you know, like a lot of even birch trees, I guess, will break off the top. A lot of the times the top of birch trees break off, you know. So them too, you know, that not that necessarily that like the birch would kill you, but it would definitely hurt, and it would, you know, so to avoid it, you know, if possible. I try to prefer cedar trees. They provide a really good wind block for everything. Cedar trees, they never, and I can't say never because I have seen like a couple of times where they've snapped. But it takes an extremely strong storm to snap a cedar tree. Usually they just uproot. And when you take an uprooting, it's not, doesn't have the force that a snapping tree will to snap you. So again, it's, you know, just trying to up my percentage of survival as much as you can. Even though there's, you know, but there's always a risk. There's just a risk as much as driving your vehicle or having an animal run out in front of you. And you just try to do everything you can to prevent it, you know. So that's kind of my ways. I really don't like sand beaches. They're buggy. Sand gets everywhere. There's, I find very few advantages. I'll go there during the day to swim, but then I usually don't do that either, because then I just jump in the lake and swim. Why would I pinpoint a beach, you know? So, but there's times for it, you know. I mean, if I was to bring family with kids and stuff out there, the beaches would be great. And then burnt areas, especially this time of the year, usually this time of the year I hang out on the Gunflint side, because I hang out to pick berries over on this side, because we did have some nice burns, you know, or bad burns really, but for the foraging aspect of it, I mean, I get tons of stuff over here now. So that part is kind of nice. Yeah, and then I guess for storms, if you have a tent, I don't tent. I have a hammock. So the burnt areas, it's kind of nice. I have an advantage because I've been everywhere pretty much in the boundary water, so I know where it's burnt. So I can avoid them areas and just day trip to them. So it's kind of nice. Here's some fishing tips. So this one here, I threw that one back. So usually northern pike, my mom's allergic to northern pike, so I didn't really grow up eating them, but now I eat them. So I really didn't know how to debone them at first, so then I just boiled them. Is how I taught myself how to figure out where the bones were in pike and stuff before I started cleaning them. But so pike, I'm sure you guys can, letting you know how to fish for them, but whatever. So then usually I'll cast towards shore. To get pike, I'll catch a lot of bass. I don't really eat bass. It's been a long time since I ate a bass. I think they're flakier, and I don't enjoy them as much. And I don't, so whatever. So then I don't. But this pike here that one was pretty decent. Over the years, you catch some pretty nice ones in these lakes, and they're really, really fun to catch out of a canoe or kayak, And then another nice thing about it is, I guess, I found that you really don't need to have heavy test line to fish up here, because I can catch all these big fish with 4 or 6 pound tests because they just pull the boat around. So you get a nice little free ride, and So that's pike. Some walleye. Walleye really vary. I found there's a tremendous variance in these lakes around here fishing wise. Sometimes you get such beautiful clear water lakes, especially in this area. You get really clear water. Them walleye can sit really, really deep in some of them lakes. So I catch them even deeper than 50 feet sometimes. I'd imagine I'm pulling them up from. But then you gotta take your time, because you don't want their stomachs up in their throats and everything if it's a big one and stuff. But stained water, they seem to be shallower, and I'm sure that has to do with the oxygen levels in the water. I've also kind of found that sometimes the darker stained lakes seem to do better with darker lures. Just in general, we all have our own techniques. But anyways, that one's pretty decent. It's usually a 20-inch walleye is about the biggest I'll eat. Anything bigger than that is too much of a meal, so then I'll get thrown back. Lake trout here, this is on Otter Track Lake. Not a lot of trout in there, but when you do catch them, they're nice. Trout, I usually don't go as deep as most people go for trout, and it's because when you go deep for trout, you usually get big ones, and I'm not really interested in that. I'm more interested in the meal. So I usually don't go more than 15 to 20 feet below the surface for trout, and that's basically just for some of the smaller lakes. So once you start getting in some of the bigger lakes, you have to go a little bit deeper, but you'll still get them. So I don't know. I try not to eat trout as often, I guess, because they're oilier. I get sick of the taste of them. They're not as good. I can't really smoke trout out there. I do have a way to smoke fish out there, which is on this picture right here. So I bring a little metal rod with me out there, and I just use some sticks, and then typically about a 12-inch trout takes about 4 hours to slow cook like that, and then and then I can save it for a couple days. I usually try to do it on a slightly like a misty day, or like days like if it's like kind of raining but like not quite raining. I call it like 110% humidity. So like if it's about like them days, it's when I try to smoke them, because it's easiest for me to control the fire then. This is how I make pancakes. So they're fantastic. Yeah. So this is just a blueberry one. It's not one of the best that I make, but it was a good one, I'm sure. And then a lot of the times, the pancakes that I make, I try to make good wild rice pancake mix. For some reason, wild rice as opposed to just regular flour, it sustains energy in my system longer. It's just something that I've noticed. So that's just something that I try to pay attention to what's good for my body, what's bad for my body, and everything like that while I'm doing it. And then, I mean, the longer I can go without getting tired, the better off I am. Especially if it's a busy area where I see a lot of people, and then usually I, keep going. So until fall, usually like the first 2 or 3 months in the year, I'm still, where it's like, okay, I want to be by myself, and then come like September, I'm pretty lonely, so then I start chasing people down, and I'm like, hey, come have a conversation with me. I mean, I don't do it that obviously, just subtly, Another thing that I make a lot of is with cranberries, is I boil cranberries in a little pot, and then I'll fry fish, and then I'll put like a cranberry sauce over the fried fish, which is a really good way to just, with all natural food for the most part. I'll add sweet Dale, which is a spice that grows around the shorelines. I add that to fish a lot. If you put maple syrup in, if you bring maple syrup, because I'm not up here early enough in the spring to get it. But like if you bring it with, it's a really great sweetener, especially with the cranberries, because let's be honest, they are bitter. So any bramble, what I do with them is I in my Mylar bags that I always bring a couple extra for berry picking. But I put them in the bag. I usually let them sit overnight, or just squeeze the bag a little bit and get them juices, and then I flavor my water that way. It's a great change from regular water. Or making teas. I really don't make a lot of teas just because it's time consuming, and I don't necessarily need the vitamins intake, like the vitamin intake that way. If it was here in the winter, then I would be doing more teas because I would be needing the vitamins that way. But because I'm here in the summer mostly, I don't have to do that. So anyways, so that's one of the things. And then actually I noticed that I walked the magnetic trail just a little bit. I didn't walk all the way to the rock, but before I come here, and I noticed that there was a couple blackberries that were starting to get ripe. Which was kind of surprising because they're usually a little bit later. And then I haven't found any ripe thimbleberries anywhere yet. And I've just come from Ely just the other day, because they're further ahead with their berries usually than this area is. And even in this area, it seems like because the elevation changes so much, that it can even produce like a week off of ripeness for berries. So sometimes I can be on Siegel Lake, and then like a couple days later I'll go up, like it'll be towards the end, and then I can go up to Paulson Lake, and then I can still pick berries there for another week. So the elevation changes actually, it's kind of interesting because like I say, it's not a lot, but it actually does influence the berries a little bit. Which of course matters to me because I tend to forage, because the more that I do out there, the less I have to carry, and carrying stuff sucks. This is sweet Dale. This is what grows around the shorelines. It's one of the spices that we have. Sweet Dale is one. Wintergreen, I kind of use wintergreen a little bit, but not a ton. Although like the berries, I do eat a lot of berries. But this is one of the things. And then another thing about sweetgale is it's one of the plants that stains really, really easily. So like if I take the nutlets off of it and just squish it between your fingers, it'll stain your fingers extremely yellow, and it stays on there for a long time. So I imagine in my mind, like, I know most of the pictographs are red, but some of them have a little bit more of a yellow color to them. So I would imagine that maybe sweetgale was one of the things that they put in it, and I think red come from the red osier dogwood planted on the shoreline. I think they got that from the bark, I believe, which stained red. Here's a blank one. Well, maybe I can just do it like this. Okay, so one of the advantages to being a soloist, I wonder if I can, okay, let's do it this way. Okay, so one of the advantages of being a soloist is I get to see lots of animals. I'm quiet, you know, I'm by myself. Sometimes I do bring some headphones with, because occasionally I just like to listen to a little bit of music. I can't sit and listen to myself talk all the time. Things get really weird. And who knows where that conversation will end up. So here's some of the things. So I was paddling down a creek. I can't really, the best way, if people ever ask me how to see animals, well, a bear, I just say, well, leave food out, you know. But a moose, I don't really know like a good way to explain to people how to find a moose, other than when it's 90 degrees up here, paddle down some of the creeks and rivers, and they'll be there cooling off. So that would be my only advice that I can give on how to see moose, like this one, which was sleeping when I come up to it. So I wish you could see it a little better, but it was sleeping when I come up to it in the river. So then I had to wake it up, because it's a small creek, and you know you can't just turn around. So here it is getting out of the water. So you can see just how strong they actually are. It's pretty cool. I got some really nice pictures of this one. And then this will come out of the water and turn around with this annoyed look on his face. I mean, I get it, you know, I get crabby when I get waking up from naps. You know? But this actually, you can see even some of the detail of like the flies on its snout and everything like that. And I don't know how them things handle it all the time. I don't get like marks from mosquitoes. I don't get, like, usually in the morning when I wake up, I'll get a couple maybe mosquito bites along here, like back in my leg where it'll give a little bit of a bump, but then after, you know, a few bites, it kind of just, everything goes away, and I get bitten by hundreds of mosquitoes a day, but it doesn't affect me, I guess, over time. And the only way that I can really think of it is that like my body no longer really sounds like a trigger, that it's abnormal for it to do it, right? But I'm no doctor, I don't know. That's just a guess. So I was, usually each year, you know, like I always, you know, try to ask the woods to present something to me, right? You know, and I always try to give things back to, you know, in certain ways, just how I do my own personal things. But like, so this year I asked to see a cat, because I've never seen a wild, like I've never been close to a wild cat before. Until this year, I had this one walk up to me, and I was probably about 10 feet away from it. And then it sat down and let me take a couple pictures. So it was really, I mean, really cool experience. So I got them 2 pictures of the cat and this was over at Quishly Lake by the campground there, actually. So it's probably not around there anymore. But I mean, I can assume that they go to campgrounds. People leave, you know, people leave things out, so they go there for the same reasons. This was a friendly visitor that I had. This was over on this area. I don't remember what lake this was on. But this thing come from, we were like 3 feet apart. There was me, my backpack, and then the bear. And it snuck up behind me, and that one was a little bit intimidating because this was earlier in the spring yet, so that thing's pretty big for a not well-fed bear. But occasionally that happens, you know, so you just gotta try to lean them away from your sight. This one actually, this one forced me to pack up all my stuff, and then I paddled around the lake until dark, and then I just camped somewhere else. So it does happen. I'm kind of fortunate because I'm just one person, so for me to like do that, it's not that much work. But for like a group of 9 people, it would be different. But then again, would a bear go up and do that to a group of 9 people? You know, probably. I had no idea. I guess I'm by myself all the time, so I can't answer group questions. You know. This is just, I figured I'd throw some scenery pictures in there because you know, like some scenic pictures. So this is the channel between Fraser Lake and Thomas Lake. So it's just a little area. I try to get I always try to like, you know, do a little thing so I get the canoe in between there with the thing kind of centered. And I'm not a photographer, but you just try to do the best you can, you know. And so that was one of them. Another thing that I do like to say on the Gunflint side, you guys have lots of views like this, but this doesn't really exist as much on the Ely side. This particular view right here is called from Smite Lake over it's by like Adams, north of Quishwe Lake, in that area. But this is just kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, and then I come from this lake, and then it's about a half mile up and down, and then you work your way around. And then this is the view. Pictures don't really do justice to it, you know, when you see them things. So that's one of the things that I've been doing now that I completed all the trails. It's like, well, where do I go from here next? Because I've already been to most of these places. So now I'll see a hill where I can kind of judge, you know, hey, this is going to be a really good view. Let's check it out, you know. So I've been trying to get more pictures like this. And I've been doing pretty good this year with it. I've also been marking campsites and points of interest. So now that I completed all the trails, I started. I have every maintained portage in the boundary waters tracked with GPS. So if you want, there's a whole bunch of topographical apps that you can put on your phone, and then I have the trails that you can download. And then you can add it to it. So if you're looking, like say you're driving your car and you're following the road, it's basically the same thing as that. It's the trails for the boundary waters. So now this year I've been working on the campsites, and I've been doing points of interest. And then like points of interest, I'm trying to do more historical related things where like old resorts are and things like that. I collect old brochures. So if I have like an old brochure, I pin the brochure to the location of where it existed and take a picture of like what it looks like now. So I'm kind of trying to put that aspect into everything. But I'll have that done hopefully by the end of next year, because it's you know, it's a lot of work to do the entire boundary waters for one person. I don't know how many miles.
Hey Mark,
What was it?
on the maps that you have available on your website, do you put things like that? Was it Murray Falls, or the one that isn't on the maps that you found bushwhacking? Do you put that stuff on there?
That one I might have on there.
Okay.
I might have on there. On the portage data, I do have a lot of special trails that I hike to just for views. So some of them on there, if you click on it, it'll say unmaintained or user maintained, or some of them will just say bushwhack. And that means that, you know, well, of course that means what it means, but that's just, but yeah, there are some trails that are my special trails on there. Yeah, so it's unique to me, you know. Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, is like it's a collection of all of my knowledge over all these years. So in a couple of years from now, once I finish all the other points, it should be really spectacular. So I'm looking forward to it. This is one of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken in the boundary waters. It's just a picture plant, but the way the clouds all lined up to it with the yellow reflection from the sun, because they're usually not as yellow as that. It's just kind of reminds me of like a Dr. Seuss photo, you know, with it popping out like that, right? But that's one of the favorites, so I thought I'd share that one with you guys. Here's another one that was just perfect timing. You can't prepare a click to do this because your finger doesn't hit the trigger fast enough, right? So I just happened to take, click, and at the perfect time the loon lifted her wing up, and that was pretty nice. You can see you can't plan that. I mean, I've tried to take plenty of pictures of lightning, and you just can't. Another thing that I did is to help promote my the GPS data. I guess I made an edible wild berries pamphlet of the boundary waters. So this is the way kind of for me to market it and kind of give something back at the same time in an educational way so people can kind of learn. So I just have 20 different berries on here, well 18 different berries, and then I have hazelnuts because we have hazelnuts throughout the entire boundary waters. So then I have that on there, and then I have sweet ale on there just because I use that a lot. So I have that on there too. So then this is that, and then this is the back side of it. I have some brochures over there that you guys are welcome to grab on your way out and everything. I also have some, what are them things called? Carabiners, little carabiners or whatever that say the barefootpaddler.com on them. So they're free too, you can have them, or whatever, and then some stickers and stuff. So I guess, I don't know, hopefully, I don't know, I think this is just kind of a nice way to market, and just a good thing to get out there. I used to have edible plants of the boundary waters, but technically you're not supposed to eat the plants, you just, but you can pick the berries. So now that I started the business aspect of this, I had to, or I just felt obligated to change it, right? So now it's edible berries of the boundary water. So this is what it is. This is also free if you don't want to grab it, if you just want to share it with anybody you want. It's free to download on my website because I just wanted to make it free. So it's free to download, so you can just click on it and it'll download to your phone for free. So that's on there. So anyways, there's the download it for free, and then that's my logo. I had one of my friends come up with a logo for the Barefoot Paddler, and this is what he came up with. I thought that was pretty cool. So I got that on the canoe and everything. It's fun. I don't know. You gotta try to make everything fun, and just enjoy it, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I hope you appreciated the information. I can do questions if you want. Does anybody have any? Yeah, question?
Have you ever had a foot injury up there?
Not very, really bad. I've stubbed toes and everything like that, and it's definitely removed skin, but not generally really bad. Most of my worst injuries have all been abrasions on my knees from scrapes and stuff. One of the things in the spring, which is really hard, because if I was wearing shoes, this probably wouldn't happen as much, but everything's really sharp before the leaves start coming on the plants and everything. So when I go through the trails in the spring, my legs get kind of cut up and sliced. And if I step on something, like if I step on a branch and drag my foot forward, the branch will slice me sometimes across the front a little bit. But you win some, you lose some.
You bring a first aid kit?
Yes. I have a very, very good first aid kit. I have sutures with me. I have some of that powder with me that you light on fire. I have lots of stuff for hopefully that I'll never have to use. Yes. Yeah. So, and I try to learn a little bit about the different cuts. When I first started doing this, I didn't realize how many, I think there's really only a few different types of cuts, but you have to heal them all in different ways. And I never really realized that as much. So you can't just bring Band-Aids with, and a Band-Aid's not going to heal every type of wound. You have to have gauze with. Super glue actually kind of works good to just seal some stuff back up, So yeah, my medical kit went from probably this big to my medical kit seriously now is a good chunk. But and that doesn't just apply to me though, because I might not need that medical kit for me. There's a lot of people out there that could get hurt. So it's for the benefit of everybody for me to have that. Yes.
I had visions of you like paddling right here in Chik-Wauk. Did you time it so you're here, or did you come in from town?
No, I got family that come up and visit, so we were hanging out for the last couple of days. So I drove over here from Ely the other day. I come out Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. I think I was on Ima Lake over there, and I ended up paddling like 25 miles that day because once I got close to the entry point, it was just busy. So then I'm like, well, I might as well just go to my vehicle at this point because I got to be around people anyways. So I was like, oh. So then I did that, and then it actually worked out to my advantage because I went to the Blueberry Festival the next morning, and then I was around a whole bunch of people. But it's fun because I got to socialize with some people, and I say I've been out there, what is it, so the 28th today, so so 3 months now? I think it is, right? Maybe? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 months now, yeah, so I'm about to get to my lonely point. I've been wondering why I've been getting chatty.
I have a question, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, so two-parter. Do you know the show alone, and would you ever do it? Because I think you would win.
Yeah, but I'm not, like them challenges for money don't really appeal to me because that's, it would be kind of fun to know what I could do, and I've thought about doing like a 2 week of just going out into the boundary waters with just a backpack and a little bit of gear and just doing it for my own personal thing. But I haven't done it yet. But at some point, I probably will. but alone, I don't know. And they do it in the winter.
What would a typical winter look like?
A winter? I was a sheet metal worker for a long time, so if I can find some sheet metal work, sometimes I'll do that. Otherwise, I'm just a handyman, kind of. I do a lot of different stuff. I did sheet metal for a long time. I did kitchen equipment for a long time, and then now I kind of do a few things just to get by for the winter, and then just to come back up. And now I'm kind of trying to get this stuff all started here because, to be honest with you, it's not sustainable to only work, a few months a year anymore. It used to be before everything kind of changed in those last 5 years. It's a lot tougher now, just in general. Just with everything, groceries and everything being more expensive. So it's getting a little tougher. So this, and then now, it's, and I'm not worried about the trails are cool, but once I complete the points of interest and everything like that, it's going to be something special then. Not that I'm dissing my own product because that would be stupid, but because it is really cool, and I put a lot of work into it, and it is extremely accurate. It's very, very cool, but it's really going to be something special. Yeah.
Going back to when you went into town for the Blueberry Festival, did you push your tongue?
Yeah, I did actually, yeah.
And how did that feel? Okay.
No, I usually, when I'm out in the woods, I do carry shoes with me, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is because otherwise my feet dry out too much and they crack. And then what it ends up being is they crack to the point that it's like through the skin, so it feels like little paper cuts. So I do everything I can to avoid that. Even though inevitably it does always happen. So, yeah.
Any aspirations to tackle Quantico?
Not really, to be completely honest with you. There's still stuff that I want to do here before that would happen. But Quantico is expensive, man. 150 days in the summer I can do on 5 permits. 4, but I could do it on. I could do it on less, but I usually do it on 5 permits, right? 150 days in Quantico times $20 a day, you're looking at a lot of money. So that has a lot to do with the Quantico part of it, because it will be fun because the portages are more challenging there and they're not as well maintained and it is more rugged. So it would be fun to do that, but instead of doing that here, I'll set different goals. You know, once I get all the campsites and everything done, maybe I was telling them maybe I'll go to every lake. You know, maybe every single lake I'll try to put a boat on. You know, or at least have a visual picture of it. You know, so because I carry with me a little dinghy, a little inflatable boat that's like folds in. It's like a 2-liter size bottle, and then I can inflate it big enough that it'll fit me and a backpack, so I can do day trips anywhere I want to. Yeah, and take a little inflatable boat out there with me. So yeah, the possibilities are pretty endless for me out there.
Yes.
Right? Well, I bring a little inflatable boat because I always figure you gotta have a toy out there. You know, I mean, like, you know, so that's my toy. I don't have a 4-wheeler, you know, I have a little inflatable boat. Yeah. So, yeah.
What are the biggest changes you've seen in the body waters in the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, it was. I found for a little while there when Quetico was shut down, there wasn't really anywhere in the woods that people didn't go, because people that would go to Quetico would go deeper into the boundary waters. And now that now things are back to kind of what they were before that. So the entry points areas are always extremely busy, but once you get deeper into the woods, it's still pretty well open. So if you ever, so my advice is for trips is always just go a little bit deeper. Because once you go a little bit deeper, you will find that seclusion, but you don't find that by the entry points anymore, which is unfortunate. But it's, you know, I mean, everybody. You have to go through the entry points even to get to the deep places. You still have to go through them at some point. So that's otherwise. I've been seeing quite a few moose lately. This year I haven't seen as many, but last year I saw at least 2 dozen. So like, and the year before that I've seen quite a few too. So I mean, I've been seeing quite a few animals out there.
Mark, have you ever thought of bringing a dog for companionship?
So.
Feed the animals too much?
Yeah, I've thought about a dog, but it would be a big change, and I've done this a long time. It would take a lot for me to try to change things that I do at this point, because I've done this for so long. You know, like people ask me sometimes. I run into them, and people ask me, "Do you want me to help? Flip your canoe, or do you want me to help lift it, or like move it?" And I don't even know how to accept help, because I'm by myself all the time. So I just learned how to do it, and actually that's kind of cool too, because like a lot of the campsites now over the years, the benches and everything have been eroded or burned or anything like that, right? So the Forest Service cuts down a lot of the trees at campsites for safety. They just drop them, so then I'll cut them in half again or something like that, and then I make new benches at a lot of places. Kind of as a hobby in the spring or fall, not when it's hot out, and keep myself warm. I'll definitely try to improve the campsites or something. So, yeah.
Mark, what type of interesting, unusual things have you found out there? Things that people have left over.
I found a little rock triangle that I can only identify as being pipestone. And I found that on a meter lake, which is along the border, kind of by Knife, between Knife and Hanson in that area. And it was hand cut. You could tell it was hand cut, and it was just a little triangle shape. And there's no reason that there has to be a reason. I'm sure it was traded, because pipestone come from Pipestone, Minnesota. I'm sure is where it comes from. Because I looked into it, and that's the only thing I can figure out. So that was kind of interesting. It was in a place that it shouldn't be, So I guess that's the one that sticks out in my mind. Otherwise, I haven't really found I don't really go searching like the old, like the old native, places that they lived and stuff like that. I usually where there would be arrowheads and stuff. I kind of try to stay out of that and just kind of leave it as is. So if I come across something, generally, I'll notice it, but it stays,
We find a lot of rope.
Got a rope? Oh, okay, yeah. Nice. Could use that sometimes. You had a question too?
Yeah, I apologize. I came 12 minutes late. Maybe this is repetitive, but what tools do you take with you? Knife, axe, and how do you start your fires?
Oh, so I carry a buck saw and a hatchet with me. My saw I have tied onto my canoe, and my hatchet I have in my backpack. And the reason I keep them separate is because if I'm double portaging, you never know which time you're going that the tree is going to be there. So I try to have a utensil on me all the time. Always have a knife on my side, 100% of the time. I have a knife on the side of me. I use it. I don't know. I mean, I don't use it for a ton of stuff, I guess, to be completely honest with you. Usually, it's just my hatchet or my saw, just for fires. For fires, I do. I start them lots of different ways now. I mean, I still use a lighter, just because I've proven to myself that I don't need one really, but that doesn't, just because I don't need it doesn't mean I'm not going to take advantage of our technology, right? So I kind of try to focus a little bit on like what people used to do, but I try to tie our technology into some of the things that I do. Which is kind of because like the whole GPS data with bringing a phone out there and running off your phone to use it as a map doesn't appeal to everybody, right? And I completely understand that. But to be able to utilize technology and still be able to learn some of the things the old way, to take advantage of both of them, I think is double the fun, But yeah, so them are the tools really that I use. It's just them things, and then birch bark, otherwise like moss, pine needles, where my really go-tos to start a fire. And then starting them is kind of once you get past that, then you have to learn how to maintaining a constant heat. Is another challenge to get past, and then but it just takes experience,
You don't bother with the stove?
No, don't care. So fire bans are extremely hard on me because I'm not. My frying pan, I spoil myself with my frying pan, and I bring like a 10-inch, 12-inch spot frying pan because when I'm cooking a fish, I'm not going to cook a fish. I'm going to cook the damn fish, right? So like, or like a pancake. I don't want to make 6 pancakes. I want to eat one big man cake and just, go on with my day, that's what I call them. That was my picture of my old man cake on there earlier.
So what do you do when there's a fire ban?
I get pretty malnourished because I bring a stove with, right? I have to go back. Sometimes I've had to go back to my vehicle to get a stove. Okay, so then I come back out and I try to switch some of my food. Okay, so then I switch my food from wild rice to instant rice. Well, instant rice doesn't do nothing for your body, right? As far as energy goes, right? So, but I can't bring enough fuel with me to cook wild rice, right? So basically it just puts me between a rock and a hard place, and then you just bang your head between both places and, try not to knock yourself out, yeah. Hopefully we don't have any of them this year. It's been nice. It's been a nice wet year. We finally had good berries again for the most part. I mean, we've been missing that for the last 3 years. We haven't had really a very good berry season. So this year has been great. And now it all depends, I guess, because usually, I'll give you guys a little secret here. Usually after blueberry season, as low bush cranberry season, four-year bar cranberries, whatever you want to call them, I go over to Iron and Lac La Croix at that time of the year because the water levels, they're more reservoirs, and the water levels dip more. And instead of going through bogs to pick all these cranberries, I can just walk around the shorelines and do it. So it's yeah. There we go.
I have a question, Mark. This season, what did you see for impacts with the high water from the flooding on the loon nesting?
You know what? I was kind of curious about that too, because it didn't seem like it's like where are all these loons gonna like what's gonna happen to all of them? But I've been seeing a lot of babies, so for the most part, I don't think it had as much of an effect as I initially, I guess, me personally thought. Because yeah, it was the same thing. I was like, this Crooked Lake and Iron Lake. I mean, like, you know, in the spring, yeah, they flood, but I mean, like later that in the year, like that, yeah, I'm sure all them eggs. I mean, they had to have been underwater. But then again, I haven't seen any babies on Crooked Lake. Like all the babies I've seen were on Knife, which Knife Lake wouldn't fluctuate, I don't think, as much, you know. So that's where I haven't seen the babies. I'll have to keep my eye out for that. Yeah, because I'm headed back that area towards the end of the fall, probably. I think I'm going to stay in this area for like another month. So, yeah. That's the plan, but you know how I am with plans. So, anybody else?
Thank you so much, Mark. What a great program. And I'm sure you'll stick around for any more questions.
Yeah,
you brought some of your pamphlets.
Yeah.
Some carrot eaters. Sounds like you can grab one of those.
Yep, yeah, feel free to grab one of them and use it for whatever, you know, the pamphlets. You know, once you're done using it, works good to start a fire.